blocking your phobies with your other phobies would block targeting. Like a ranged unit that's not a lob cannot hit your defended, protected, guarded phobie that's behind another one of yours. Brony ignores that. Brony goes through that. Brony is like the honey badger. It don't care. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. It's almost that time. We're just this close to the season rolling over. As you can see over there, we got just under 40 minutes, so we're going to jump into some Phobies action. We're obviously not hitting our extra 20 games. We've been doing a lot of game reviews, like we could have done it. But we're going to just stick with our silver pack, or whatever this is called. I don't know. We had a gold one last time. We'll see how this one does. If it holds true as it did last season, these packs are pretty solid. Like, a lot of people reported getting new ultra rares. I'm curious how this will work, and of course, how will this work now that I'm in Sum of All Fears. I'm very curious which is worth more, if that makes sense. You know, is having the higher rank more important than playing the quantity of games? Does it really impact it? Like, I'm very curious how that works. But we'll see what we end up with as we close out the season. In the meantime, there are some more games to review, and I appreciate everybody dropping game reviews in Discord, which, by the way, if you want to get your games reviewed, go ahead and drop them in the Random Slots Discord. You can see it in the description of this YouTube video, or !Discord if you're here for the live stream. And if you want to check out the live stream, head on over to Twitch, check out RTChompGG. But we're going to take a peek at HolloWulf's game. Awesome game, that Brony game. Like, that was actually a really cool game to see, because it was kind of enlightening, we'll say, as far as strategies. It was a brand new thing that we saw. So, Borgo, welcome to the channel. How you doing? So we're going to jump into this replay. We're going to kill some time until the season rolls over. Then we're going to do some pack openings, try and get in some more replays. Probably going to do the same thing that we've done the last few nights. Not playing too many games, as we're just waiting for the season to roll over. Obviously, we're really going to hit it hard. It's coming next week. I want to get a lot of these game replays, game reviews done, because I don't want to build up this giant backlog and then there's a patch and bang, all of them break. That would kind of suck. I'm going to try and get through as many as I can, but like I said, shout out to everybody that's submitting games. We're getting a lot of games, so it's pretty cool to have all of these ones to review. But we're going to jump in and take a look at this HolloWulf game. So, as per usual, I have not seen this game yet, but we have, in the orange trunks, in the top right, HolloWulf, our hero, who has submitted this game, versus the bad guys in the blue trunks, who have opened with a very interesting opener here on This May Sting a Bit. While we're getting, and I'm pausing here, we're getting the Murder Wing, which actually looks kind of funny like this. Getting the Murder Wing as part of the opener from HolloWulf. We are seeing a double cat opener here and Maggie. Now, the Maggie makes sense, just as Murder Wing does on this map. You open up, you fly over, and then you get set to either take this panic point, you know, south or north of your stim, respectively, or you can take one of the pocket ones in the corner. Maybe they're not really pocket. It's not really accurate there. The extra cat is the interesting thing. This may just be our blue player's other best one cost, and they wanted to get something on the board. Seems a little weird. Seems a little weird. What's also weird is, why do they only have 5 keys? 2, 3, 4. They should have 6, right? Oh, no, you only start with 4. You only start with 4. I keep thinking it's 5 because you get 5 every turn. I just did game 68 to get up to gold pack, just finished recently. Nice, nice. The gold pack is worth it. We ended up getting Morty. Yeah, it was Morty from the last season rollover. I had to think for a second. So the Murder Wing comes out, just parks itself on the stim. Probably not going to stay there very long, but I like the cassowary down here. The bank is fine. There's an argument maybe to go 3-2-1 and get another 1 cost so that you can get more map control as compared to doing this. You have to be careful, because if you go in on Maggie and you leave something exposed, Maggie will kill it. Maggie has a pretty high damage output. Now, here's the other scary thing that comes out very early in the game, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there watching this that are cringing already, and that is Alistor. So this is one of the ultra rares that people really don't like to see. Grimes, of course, probably being public enemy #1. but Alistor here is a dimensional phobia that has a better life leech than, well, any of the undead at this stage. 100% life leech. Life force, actually, is technically the name of the ability here. Sure. It's a force. But anyway, in addition to Alistor, we see the repositioning in order to cap a point and position for this center one. Now, where they were, they probably could have taken this center point, right? Let me go back for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I don't know why Hollow did not choose to cap the middle point with the cassowary. I don't think there's anything in the game that could possibly threaten it, because it would need like 4 movement in order to do something, and it would have to fly. So I'm not, unless I'm miscounting these spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. It should have been able to make it, but anyway, it actually does kind of matter, because now the blue player is up 3-1 instead of simply 3-2. And the blue player is now followed up with Pterodactyl, which is one of my go-tos on this map. I like Pterodactyl a lot. The flying obviously allows it to get into play very quickly, and it allows for, you know, some easy pickings on a variety of fronts. Speaking of easy pickings, Maggie goes down to the Alistor and the Cassowary, which absolutely did not have to happen. There was no need for Maggie to be here. The Murder Wing up top is taking pot shots on the cat, but it looks like our blue player is taking advantage of the situation in order to just cap as many points as they can. Now, this is also a pretty cool aggressive move from blue player. So, we have 4-0. It could have been 5-0, but if this Pterodactyl ended up going to the center, probably not going to end well. We may see this cat move up and take the center and make it 5-0, but the Pterodactyl has now taken a very aggressive position over here on the actual stem. Now, that means that HolloWulf is going to have a difficult time actually sieging this, simply because, I mean, this is pouring out almost 800 damage at a clip. It's gonna one-shot, well, not one-shot, but in a single volley, it's killing any of these things that come into range. It could actually just off the Cassowary. Plus, there's a follow-up Jar and Henrietta. Henrietta, obviously, to claim points, but the Jar will actually supplement the damage from the Pterodactyl pretty well. Now, would I have gone with these? I don't know. I think I would have gone with something a little thicker instead of spending for these less costly phobies. Probably something a little more threatening, so that way you can kind of bully the position a little bit more. You've taken an aggressive position. You're going to end up losing the cat up here. But what's actually going to happen is this Murder Wing is probably going to come down and snipe this Jar. Thicker. Thicker might be an accurate description, but we'll see what happens. So we have the cat repositioning here onto the stem, rather than trying to take the mid. So we're staying at 4-0. But what's interesting from Wolf here is that they elect to snipe the cat and then reclaim the point. I think that's fair, although I would have considered, like I said, taking down the Jar. You would have ended up with Henrietta connecting with the Murder Wing, thereby basically ensuring its demise, but it's a very slow demise. The Murder Wing still would have been mobile for a number of turns, probably gotten at least one more meatball off. However, the Henrietta does pay off here, because the Henrietta is able to body block for this Jar, which is now sitting on a stem, and we have a follow-up Mr. Trample. Shout out to all my Mr. Tramples fans. I know we had a cool replay on one of my previous streams that people on YouTube really loved. We'll see if we get a cool Mr. Tramples play here. But the Pterodactyl is just going face. If any of you out there have played Hearthstone, face is the place. And look at this heart right now. Like, look at this heart. Right meow. That is not a healthy looking heart. A man needs a heart transplant right now. That is no bueno. Been having too many good eats, and there's some clogged arteries here, because that heart is not long for this world. We'll see what HolloWulf does to get out of the scenario. This Primate comes up and is able to leap onto the Pterodactyl, as well as getting a shot from the Stairmaster and the Alistor. The problem is that, there we go. I was going to say, it's not quite enough. So this was a setup several turns in the works. You had to get all of this damage. Look at this. It required a hit from a Primate. It required an Alistor hit. It required a Stairmaster hit and a Jar, plus the Cassowary to stand on it. It's a lot of effort. But it is a 7 for 0 right now. That's clearly not going to remain to be the case, but we'll see where it goes from here. Now, the Murder Wing comes back, appropriately capping some points. Unfortunately, Mr. Tramples is just clobbering stuff. Now, Mr. Tramples is... That's a bold move, Mr. Tramples, because you didn't actually kill anything, unless there's going to be a bunch of sudden eliminations here. So we do get the elimination there. Henrietta comes in. Can Henrietta get the kill? Henrietta does, in fact, get the kill. And, okay, so this is a great follow-up. The Electric Cat is able to stand on the stim, which would have allowed either Alistor or something to, well, really Alistor, to stand on the stim and then start lighting things up. Plus, with the 100% lifesteal, it would have been very difficult to dislodge it. Now, the cat is not really going to stand on there for very long. Let's be realistic about this. So we have the Murder Wing actually come back in order to meatball while on the stim. Now, given the line of sight, Alistor is able to put a hurt on this, but it can't quite kill it. So we do have a Metabot follow-up. How often do you see Metabot come out and snipe something like this? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. A very good play from Hollow here, because you absolutely had to get Mr. Tramples off the board. And here's where I think things are starting to go off the rails for blue player. They still have a panic point advantage. They still have a panic point advantage. They still have some phobies that can threaten the heart. But this is not really the position you want to be in. It is cool that we do get a second Henrietta takedown. How wild is that? Now this is... I don't know about this one. Well, I guess. Your opponent's at... And when I say your opponent, we're talking about HolloWulf here. HolloWulf is at just over 3k health. There's an argument that maybe you need to just go face, but at this point, you've hemorrhaged so much board position between the Pterodactyl and the Mr. Tramples, not to mention, you know, other phobies here and there, that you're down an enormous amount of keys, so you kind of have to remove some of their threats, because, and by their threats, we're talking about HolloWulf's threats, because otherwise, they're just going to come in and sweep through and clean up all your stuff. You only have 10 keys left, 5 available to you, whereas your opponent has 11. And they do have an advantage on board, at least in my opinion. But you do have a very sizable heart advantage, so this is reasonable. Let's take down Alistor, get it off the board, and then kind of go from there. The problem is it doesn't look like they're actually going to be able to remove it. And that hurts. That actually really hurts. So removing the Murder Wing from the stem probably makes sense, but I wonder if there was a way to make the Alistor end up getting poisoned, or maybe it would have been worth concentrating more damage on it in general. Because as it is, this is not working out. Like, you could have, hypothetically, like, if we walk this back, you started this turn in this way. Yes, you do want to remove this Murder Wing, but at the same time, damaging Alistor and not actually killing it seems like a waste. So, hypothetically, you move the spider down, hit it, or 200, and then poison, but whatever. Then you leap for another, make it like 1100, we'll say, because you leap in for 450, then you attack for 450. You hit it with a jar. Yeah, that's not going to be enough. Well, actually, that might have been enough. Yeah, because it would have been 911. No, it probably wouldn't, because this is close to 1500 health. If these were slightly higher levels, maybe. You know, a higher level Cassowary, a higher level Jar, even a higher level Henrietta. Because this Stairmaster was not in a position to supplement. At this stage, it feels desperate to try and go for the play that happened here. I can respect claiming the extra point, so that way you're pushing extra damage. And the only way that blue is taking this game down, I think, is by going for damage. You've already accepted that things are not going to work out in your favor in the actual phobie to phobie battle. Because look at this, things are just dropping left and right. The Gargle's follow-up and the Contortio are very strange. I'm not really sure. I mean, the Contortio, okay, you cap a point, but I don't really understand the Gargles. We'll see if it comes into play. But HolloWulf here goes for Rocket Man, which I can understand. Now, the repositioned Stairmaster here is pretty impressive because it is going to allow extra hits on the heart. I mean, look at this. We're down to 1,000 health. This game might be over in short order. So the last phobia on the board from blue is Ray Chargels. I'm a little surprised to see the Gargles go here. This doesn't make any sense at all to me. So it was originally on the stem. What I kind of anticipated was sending it in and then transforming it just so that this spot cannot be retaken. I think blue needs to hold these points, or they just give this game up. Now, admittedly, the heart is at 384, so we'll see where this goes. We get the Stairmaster on the stem, going to be real nasty. I would have made Gargles petrify on the stem. It wouldn't have been able to live to get there. That's the problem, because it started on the other stem. So if it ran across, assuming you're talking Gilbo to get on the opposing stem. But here's the problem. And I think this was a throw from our blue player. So they have no position now to basically ever get at the heart again, right? If they had instead locked down this point with Gargles. So remember, we'll go back. This was 2 turns ago, 1 blue turn ago. They move forward and end up with this Gargles here. They could have instead ended up with... Whoop. Got to rewind a little bit more. They could have instead ended up with the Gargles on this blue point. Our hero, HolloWulf, has to address the Stairmaster here, so it's very unlikely that they're actually going to be able to put something on that point. We know that there's no way that they can claim, HolloWulf can claim, this top left point. Given the damage that comes out this turn, this heart is now with under 400 health. Even the 225, so Gargles locking this point, means that they take 225, then they'll take 225 when you pass turn, and the game is just over. Now, in the moment, that can be difficult to see. That can be very difficult to see, but I'm not really sure what this Gargles was intended to do, let alone what it's doing now. Like, why it ended up coming up here is beyond me, unless the intent was to, like, swing it around to punch the heart. But as you can see, now that these points have been claimed, it's just not happening. There's nothing else that can come out of the blue vault in order to try and reclaim these points. So it's possible for HolloWulf to make a mistake and throw the game, don't get me wrong. But at this stage, I take it back, they can just snipe this. But remember, if blue player had dealt or held these other points, this could still be game here. There would be extra damage on Orange's heart. So instead, we see Gargles come back and lock off the stem, which I guess is fine. Ray Chargels is down here, but not really doing a whole hell of a lot. So we're just seeing it get whacked by everything. The Contortio clearly is coming back to try and recap a point or something. And due to the mobility of Metabot, and of course Stairmaster being where it is, able to reclaim the point. So this Gargles is like the last gasp effort. Again, like I said a moment ago, there's just no way for blue to actually get at the enemy heart at this stage. It almost would have been better to try and dance Contortio around and maybe hope to sneak in, but it never would have happened. So instead, we see the Contortio go down, and then in short order, we're going to see this Gargles pop out. It pops out at the start of the enemy turn, so no matter what, it's just toast. I mean, look at this welcoming party that's just waiting for it. Look at this welcoming party. That is, yeah, it's not exactly rolling out the welcome mat here. Hey, Cypress, what's good? How you doing? Get a little womp. Get a little womp. And bees! More bees. And ball game. GG HolloWulf. This was pretty cool. This was pretty cool. I definitely think that this was a throw by the blue player, but I think that HolloWulf did a great job of hanging in there throughout the game and being able to position, taking the kills where you could. Like, the enormous amount of keys that were thrown by blue due to the pterodactyl loss and the Mr. Trample's loss, meant that HolloWulf had the opportunity to actually get back into this game. But I think that Blue definitely had some opportunities to still seal the deal, given the enormous amount of aggression, the enormous amount of pressure that happened. And that's what's really awesome about Phobies, is that you do have to be on top of your game each and every turn. If you mess up, you're going to get punished for it. And it could just be something as simple as that mispositioning of gargles that costs you the game. But regardless, GG. That was a pretty cool one. I like that. Now, HolloWulf did send in some notes about the game. So we could go back into it as I go through HolloWulf's notes about the game. So they were also confused about why the electric cat showed up, which I agree. HolloWulf was saying they wanted to pressure the cats at the top, so we put Murder Wing up there. Cassowary is always good, so I sent him down to contest Maggie. Pretty much what we were thinking. Plus, on this map, Murder Wing is a good opener because of all the reasons that we already highlighted. Playing the point with Murder Wing, continue to push the cat. Alistor summoned because she's a coat. Yep, I mean, yeah. Alistor, getting that online pretty quickly, and it's worth banking for in this scenario. When we were talking about possibly sending a 1 key out, obviously the Alistor was probably worth it. Summons a pterodactyl and moves Maggie to pressure Cass, but doesn't move the cat. Yeah, there were a number of times where the cat, as we noted, did not move or moved oddly, erratically. I mean, the Maggie loss here was just kind of pointless. So, one thing that's interesting here is that the dive with the pterodactyl is a little strange in general. I just don't... It seemed kind of ballsy. It did almost work out for Blue, but it just seemed ballsy in general to dive that far. And obviously the pterodactyl overstayed its welcome a little bit, but maybe it had to in order to make that game plan work. I must now kill Mr. Tramples, and the only way I could do it was by exhausting everything this turn. Yeah, pretty much. I'm just skimming the notes from HolloWulf. No matter what I could do, I could not kill the Stairmaster. He's now has killed Mr. Trample, summon Rocket Man. Also, side note, I could put Metabot the line of LOS the Stair, but I didn't want to lose 5 keys for free. Yeah, I mean, I'm skimming HolloWulf's notes. I think we hit on a lot of, if not all of, the points that were mentioned. I think this was a cool game. I think it was a cool way for anybody who's looking for an aggressive line on this map, of which I know there's a lot of aggressive-minded players hanging out in chat, hanging out in Discord, and this was a fairly, like, this opener from the Blue opponent actually worked out pretty well for the most part, and like I said, I think they could have taken it. I think the response from Hollow was pretty solid. I don't think that it was necessarily a mistake, and you can't hear the game sound because I'm cleaning up the channel as we're doing this so I can find the next game to review. I don't think there was anything necessarily that Hollow needed to do differently. Like Luffy himself, yeah, well, it's not just Luffy, like, Dr. Traffic would love this sort of thing, too. I don't... Like, it's possible this turn that Blue players should have seen this coming. I don't know if giving up that panic point was worth it. So, for example, if they did a little bit less damage, they could have backed it off to secure this point, and then the Murder Wing can't come down. They couldn't end up killing the Pterodactyl, and they're still pressuring, and whatever steps on the stem, they can probably blow up. So, I don't know. It ended up almost working out, so it's hard for me to say that it was the wrong call, but it feels as though Blue lost this game, and Orange really just didn't make any errors to allow them a larger opening than they had, which is what you need to do. Winning games is not always about making cool plays or doing something spectacular. Sometimes you just need to play better than your opponent, and that means make less mistakes than them. I'm a master of making more mistakes than my opponent, so. 14 more minutes, we're almost there. All right, so we're jumping into another viewer-submitted, I keep saying that, user-submitted, that's not the right thing. Viewer-submitted gameplay. And our hero is in the blue trunks here, and starts with a murder wing opening here on Crypto. Now, the orange player, the bad guy in this sense, starts with a more standard opener with Gravedigger breaking one of the blocks. Now, what we've seen from other players is actually breaking the block in the south, but breaking the one by the healing spa on either side, I think, makes more sense, rather than opening up by the lava tile, because you're still restricted a little bit on your movement up here, because you don't want to end up on the lava tile. Now, our hero here follows up with a Gravedigger of their own. I think they could have moved it north, but, you know, if they moved it up one, I don't think it really matters, I guess. And a microscopic from the bad guys. Now, we get the blue Gravedigger actually circling back around, which is a little interesting. I'm not real clear on why that's happening yet, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But also, a bunch of bank keys thanks to only a cat showing up here. Now, the cat is clearly going to try and take the center. And as we've seen on many occasions on Crypto, this map, this is going to be a juggle, a trade for the center position based on, well, which ranged phobies are available. Now, this is a microscopic, so that means it's a little tankier than Gesundheit and some other ranged phobies that you might have parked here on the stim. The follow-up from our blue player is Baba Yaga, which I actually like here. It helps break some of that trading, because it allows you to maybe snipe something if it's too small, if it's already softened up. The issue here, though, is will you really need the help from the trap to kill anything if you are already in control of the stim? Between a meatball and an attack, you're probably wiping out just about anything that's on the map at this stage, at least, because it's going to take 1,000 turns for Stabby to actually get in position. We'll have to see how this plays out. It's kind of funny that some people I face try to use heal spa or try to heal undead units. That's probably because they're new. It is something you have to get used to, and, you know, you just forget. I've definitely done that before, especially when I first started out. We do see Orange be the first person to step in. Now, given that it's a Resurrect phobie, it removes the trap, and the Resurrect phobies are actually great trap testers, because it's easy to, you know, test for the trap. But we have the cat clear out, so we're key positive in favor of blue player right now, and we just see a continual banking of keys, and I kind of like this from blue. The reason is that now you're up to 8 keys. While your opponent has now committed, and we saw this yesterday, your opponent is now committed to 5 phobies. It's a small map. They can't have any more. So that means they need to sacrifice something. Now they will. They're going to send in the cat. But at least for a time, they are trapped with what they have. And you might be able to take advantage of it with your bank of 8 keys. Now, it's 11 keys to 11 keys, so we're even on that front, and obviously we're going to be down cats shortly. But right now, I would give the board position advantage to our blue player. I really like Baba Yaga over some of the things that we're seeing on the other side. Now, that being said, Stabby and Microscopic and the Eternal Night are nothing really to sneeze at. One thing that I'm a little surprised we haven't seen, though, is more things happening from the Gravediggers. They've basically been idle here, and while they were on the same side, at least force your opponent to honor what you're doing. So in this case, and I mentioned it before, if you place a block right here, well, you can block off this panic point. Is that really all that relevant at this stage? Maybe, maybe not. You could also possibly break the obstacle here and then give yourself line of sight. You're going to have to advance the Baba Yaga, so it's not necessarily what you want to do. But it at least gives you the opportunity to do some of these things. Clearly, you're only going to do it if you're setting up a play. So we see a follow-up Jin Sting, which again, this block break could suddenly become valuable. But after a block break on Orange's side, we get the retreat of the Gravedigger, and we now see an Octonaughty, which makes things very dangerous. The Eternal Night sitting on the panic point here, 2 things. 1, Eternal Night there could be very dangerous because obviously the pull means that your phobies are potentially exposed. Now, given the 1 movement on both Stabby and Microscopic, who I can't click on right now, there we go. Since they only have 1 movement, they couldn't really threaten this Murder Wing because it would have killed the Eternal Knight and then just gotten the hell out of dodge. It would have backed off again. And they can't reach it via their current movement. So that's issue number 1 for our orange player. Issue number 2 is our blue player has already demonstrated they are very willing to put Baba Yaga traps on the center point. You know how much damage they do. This thing 100% has a trap on it. I get reclaiming the point, but that's just incinerating the Eternal Knight at this point. I don't know if I really like that play as compared to repositioning and, just being a little more patient about it. Especially since you have Octonaughty, so you could yoink something, and Eternal Knight has a pretty high damage output, so you could absolutely chop something down to size between the Eternal Knight, the Microscopic, the Stabby, the Octonaughty pull, and maybe even a slap from Gravedigger. What you would have pulled, I don't know, but you would at least have had the option. Now, options are decreased. So we actually see a retreat here in order to allow the Jin Sting to take control of the stim. Sure. I mean, that's fine. The onus is on orange player here to make something happen because they are down. They are now out of keys as well, while 7 remain for our blue player. The Stabby on the point is reasonable, but it's going to die. So it's just a matter of what it pulls. Because between Meatball, stim hits from Jin Sting, and of course Baba Yaga, ooh, we even get a jar follow-up. So now we're at 5 Phobies to what's going to be 4 Phobies shortly. And it's hard to see how blue loses this, honestly. This could be a way blue loses this, because I would have... Maybe the damage didn't work out. I didn't count it up, obviously. But it's possible that you could have instead just hit it with a Baba Yaga or something once, so that way you only get the 1 attack and you're able to walk the Jin Sting back. I don't think losing the Jin Sting was worth it there, unless you were intending to trade it out. But because this happened the way it did, we get a trap laid down, we have the panic points going the other way. And we see a sheep follow-up, which I've mentioned on many occasions I'm not a fan of sheep. But, so we get the yoink. This is a good play from orange here. Break the block, yoink the Baba Yaga, and basically just annihilate it. While you take some damage on the Microscopic, this is pretty rough if you're blue right now. The question is, can the combination of the sheep hit and everything else take down Octonaughty? Because otherwise, it's just going to run away to the healing spot. So it has to die right now. 4 minutes till season pack opening. We're counting down like it's New Year's. Now, given the jar, yes, we're able to clearly take it down. It does put some dimensional damage on the Gravedigger, but the bigger thing is the sheep here. And remember, the sheep is protected by a trap right now. So essentially, you traded Octonaughty for Baba Yaga, which probably favors the Baba Yaga player. This actually hurts. This is brutal. I think we've all been there when you see someone end up with this. Look at that health bar. Ouchtown population orange team. I don't know if they calculated that and knew that was going to happen, but I can tell you right now that they don't feel good about it. Because at least if this thing was down, the Gravedigger, well, the Gravedigger was not going to live because of the jar hits, but you would have been in significantly better shape, right? Like, that's just the fact of the matter. Now, what I probably or possibly would have done, I guess the thought was that there's no way that they're ever going to get the jar unless they go for it now. But it might have been worth hitting the Gravedigger and saying retreat jar. The problem is that, again, 2 blue panic points. So how does... This is actually coming down to the wire. This is coming down to the wire because that Cyclops was able to kill that... was able to take down the Murder Wing. So it's Gravedigger versus Cyclops, who's now healing. What I imagine this is going to end, or how this is going to end, is this Cyclops is going to end up standing on the trap, take too much damage, and then the Gravedigger takes it down. But if orange is cautious about this, they can just take the scenic route. Okay, they might be staying on this healing spot too long. With 900 health, they could have gone 1-2 to the stem, 1-2 down to here, covered this if it tried to come in, because remember, if 2 hits land on this Gravedigger, it's dead. I guess the concern was that the Gravedigger was going to run to the heart, but you have enough health at this stage. I don't think you needed to heal this long as the orange player. But they ended up doing that. I think they're at like 1,300 health now. 1,600. Oh yeah, because the extra turn. Are they healing it to full? Why? Like, legitimately, why? The only reason I could see... Okay, so this makes no sense to me. You're at 1,800 health. Unless you straight up forgot how much damage this does, just go on to the middle one. Like, eat the trap at this point. They're only going to get one attack because they have to advance into you. You could even kite them at that stage, because 2 attacks will not kill you. So you get hit once, or you get hit by the trap, go down to 1,300, we'll say 1,200 and change. They walk up, hit you, put you at 800. You hit them once. So, like, they healed some amount, but you're coming out damage positive. Then you retreat to the stem. Now, our hero, our blue player, cannot advance into you. Because at any point, if you come into range and they try and recap a point, they're dead. Because you'll just nuke them. This is very strange. So instead, we see the Gravedigger created obstacle get blown up by Gravedigger, and we see 3... Oh no. Not like this. We see 3 blue panic points. Oh, not like this. Oh no. I would have... This is another strange thing. Like, it's 1,400 health. The ways for blue to win this game are obviously panic points and then going heart. Don't leave them alone up here. Go to this. If they walk up and try and hit you, you walk away and go onto the stem. You're at 1,200 health. Not like this. This one's weird. So they get no attacks here. Oh, that's clever. That's clever, because otherwise they walk up, and it's going to take 2 hits. Yo, that guy is This mad. Is brutal. This is another one where I think blue just threw this game. Orange just threw this game. But blue made no mistakes at the end. Did not give them an opportunity, a window to actually close the game out when they wanted to. So shout out to blue here. Thank you for submitting the game. Much appreciated. And as always, if you want to get your own game reviewed, join the Random Sluts Discord. Check the YouTube description. But this was well played. The statue was really cute at the end and a great heads-up play. That's something that I think a lot of people have gone, oh, well, you know what? I'm dead. There's nothing I can do. Except drop the statue. It blocks LOS. Because the heart also blocks LOS, for those of you that weren't aware. That was pretty cool. I'm not really sure what orange was doing here. I don't really understand what they were doing, but GG. Alright, packs should be ready. We got our weekly reward. We got our coffee. We got our coffee. We also got our season reward. You got Noxious? Nice, Joda. That's another one I'm waiting on. We've had some pretty cool stuff. I pulled Crushmore. I pulled Mount Crushmore because I didn't get the gold this season. So I only got an uncommon, but honestly, I feel better about Crushmore than I do about the Morty I got last season. I can't really complain about it. You got Fire Ant? Nice, Forgo. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. I'm excited to get Fire Ant. I mean, I'm excited to get a lot of different phobies. We're up to 43, so we are above 1/3 of the cast. We are above 1/3 of the cast. Yeah, Fire Ant is really good. I think Fire Ant is pretty solid. It's a lob. It has traps. It has double move. You could argue that its damage output is lacking, but I'm looking at the level 1 version here, so it's hard to compare. Got it to level 4 from the unlock? Nice. Nice. Alright, chat. So we did the pack opening. Let's jump back into some game reviews. I tried to do something Luffy would do. Versus Gilbo? Okay. I'm pretty sure it's this game, because I think we talked about this yesterday, that the trident means arena. Alright. Here we go, chat. We're jumping into a Rush Hour game. I believe this map is Rush Hour. Could be wrong. But in the blue corner, we have Gilbo. And on the right-hand side, in the orange trunks, we have DT. Allegedly, Gilbo is trying to do his best Luffy impression, and that is hyper-aggression. But we see somewhat of a punish here on the Maggie and Cat opener from DT due to your favorite and mine. It's Snowball. This actually, and I'm pausing here mostly to talk about this particular point. I mentioned on many occasions on this map that my preferred opener right now is a 1 key down here, going first, a 1 key down there, and then a murder wing up here. Now the problem is that this represents 400, 600, maybe 700 damage. Like, that's a lot. It should not kill a murder wing, a reasonably leveled murder wing, but that Maggie went down real fast. Dropped it like a bad habit. But we do see, as mentioned, an aggressive opener from Gilbo. We have a 3-0 panic point advantage and a follow-up Cyclops, which is kind of interesting. We saw a Cyclops show up from an orange player on this map yesterday early on. I don't remember who it was, but it seems fine. But I'm not a huge fan of Cyclops here, and I can't really articulate as to why. But it doesn't seem great. The response from DT is a number of different phobies, including some 1-cost and a Stabby. Stabby is okay, but the Luffy impression seems to have fallen off. That facade was very brief, because now we see Hydra. Now, I guess this could fit into the Luffy category, because it is absolutely an enormous monster that is going to take 7,000 eternities to get into the action. But it does have 3,300 health. 3,300 health. It's also pouring out almost 800 damage a clip. It is pretty mean if it can actually connect. Hydra, I hardly know you. This is Polly, and this is Molly, and Die. So we see a few connections onto the center cat, but I guess it's going to get supplemented here by the jar or something in order to ensure that it goes down. This is kind of a bold jar positioning. I'm a little surprised that DT was so aggressive about this. Now, since so much effort had to be expended to remove the cat, the snowball, without spitting fire, doesn't actually do that much damage, and the Contortio in conjunction with it could not take down the cat, hence the jar follow-up. I probably personally would have rotated the jar back. I think it's definitely going to have to run at this stage. The Cyclops can get to it relatively safely. I don't think it's all that threatened by the things that are here. But I do appreciate the droney follow-up in order to flip the panic point situation so that they are in favor of orange. This map, as I've mentioned on many occasions, feels as though it goes to the aggressor more so than maybe other maps. You can take a bunch of points and then, given the size, split your opponent's forces and then kind of rotate back and forth, get picks here and there, and then all of a sudden your opponent's in a bad spot and they're taking 1,000 damage a turn for a few turns. We do see the elimination of one of the 1 keys, meaning that there's a little less map presence for DT, and we have the big threat of Alligator, which is answered by the big threat of Blastomatic. Now, Blastomatic has proven over the last few games that I reviewed with DT, or reviewed of DT's games, proven to be a significant threat. It pushes a bunch of damage and can hold down a bunch of areas. However, it is a one-move phobie. Similar to the Hydra, it's going to take time to get in here, and it may or may not end up having to stand on a bunch of lava for several turns in a row. Now, we do have the Hydra actually retreating, which is a little surprising. It does have over 3k health. There is a healing spa. I feel as though it would behoove our blue player here to just push the Hydra forward, you know, kill the one key, push it forward, and then pressure this stabby. The follow-up back here, which is Jar, is only going to get one hit. Well, it could get 2 hits on the Hydra if the Hydra were in this north position, but at least leave the Hydra there to be able to get in. The Blast-O-Matic can't get to it just yet, and the stabby and everything else is not going to put that much of a hurt on it. It would allow it to stay in the mix. It feels like this is just pulling it out, and you don't want it to. Now, I do have to pause here because there's a bunch of stuff going on as I was rambling on and on about the positioning from the Hydra. We get an advance from the Alligator down here to cap one of the points, a follow-up Mopsy to supplement the forces down here. The Mopsy can just kind of run around the Gator and then cap some of the points back, so I can respect that. But another DT special is Honey Bear. It's a phobie that I actually really like, and if you aren't aware of this thing, it's over, honey. It has a 3 range, and it disables map tiles for 2 turns. That's what this ectoplasmic goo is. This reminds me of that one Ghostbusters movie. I don't remember which one it was. I guess the second one. Yes? Maybe? I don't know. It's not really important. But regardless, Honey Bear vomits a whole bunch of goo everywhere and it disables tiles. Notably, in this case, the lava tiles. That's why we have Snowball and Jar able to get into the position that they are. It's mud? Sure. Sure, it's mud. I mean, okay. I'm going to go with it's puke. I'm sure other people have other theories, but I'm going to go with puke. So we do have the, as always, the challenge play here. Oh, I know it's officially called mud. I know if you click on the tiles here, it is actually called mud. We do have the challenge play. This is actually a cool pause. Like, look at the animation. The art in Phobies is just unreal. I love the art. I would love to get, like, prints. Like, my streaming setup isn't really set up for this, but I have some cool, like, I have posters, and then my wife got me, and I mentioned this before, there was somebody who's doing art of your pets. So we have something, I have a cool picture of my dog back there, because she's a good girl. But I would love to get some Phobies art prints, because the art is spectacular. But, like, look at this Cyclops right now. I know this has nothing to do with gameplay, but, like, look at this Cyclops. This looks sweet. It also is a horrifying monster, but it looks sweet. Anyway, so we had the challenge play by blowing up the Dimensional Phobie and then pulling the Blast-O-Matic forward, which still has 3,100 health. So now it's in position, but just out of range of the Hydra and the Cyclops. So it will get first act. Now, this Cyclops is also just getting clobbered here. It got spit on by the Snowball, which I kind of disagree with because it is on the healing spa, so you're not getting that much out of it. But the Blast-O-Matic will be vulnerable to things coming out of the vault soon, and there are 6 keys banked on Gilbo's side, so there's a variety of different things that could come out and immediately get into the fray and cause an issue. But that friggin' laser might be able to put in some work. We are looking at a little bit more time on the mud, and we have an advantage right now for blue as far as panic points go. So we'll see how this turn ends up completing. The Alligator here actually does alligator things, which is kind of cool. What do I mean by that? It's a mountain of hit points, and it has regeneration. So it's able to eliminate the stabby, eat the phobie, or the Dimensional Phobie hit, and recap the point. So right now, it's a 4-to-1 panic point advantage for our blue player, which is pretty cool. Like, this is a pretty solid advantage, and we see a Temptress follow-up in order to try and contest the Blast-O-Matic. Now, if the Blast-O-Matic walks into range, it is vulnerable to all 3 Phobies. It can get hit by the Hydra, double hit from the Cyclops, and double hit from the Temptress. So I anticipate it's not going to be very brave here. But we see the Droney actually get in there. Get in there, Droney! Droney's in there throwing bows. And we're able to see a finish on the Cyclops here. And of course, we get some extra hits onto this Gravedigger. Now, unfortunately, the Gravedigger is able to survive with its life into this turn, meaning that that's probably a dead jar. They could, they being our blue player, walk it away. I'm not sure whether they'll do that. I think they kind of need to in order to get the Alligator in. We also saw a Cassowary come down to contest this Mopsy. This is not great, because it's not going to really be able to trade very efficiently here. That's the advantage of the Resurrect Phobies. They kind of demand multiple Phobies. It doesn't have to be higher cost ones, but they need two in order to properly deal with it. So we'll see what follow-up comes out of the vault down here. Maybe there's another quick Phobie that'll come out and pop it so that way the Cassowary can walk on it. But we see a reposition from the Hydra in order to claim the life of the Droney. You got it. We see some hits going down on Blast-O-Matic, actually, which is a little surprising. It's a little surprising to see that with the Alligator walking away to go clear out the Mopsy. Now, we're back to a 4-to-1 panic point advantage. I'm a little surprised by that because I would have expected that the Jar would have been eliminated. Like, the extra hit on the Blast-O-Matic is valuable, but I think leaving the Jar alive when you had the opportunity to actually just expunge it from existence is, you know, I don't know. I would have gone for the Jar is the bottom line. But prioritizing the Blast-O-Matic is definitely a reasonable response. So as a follow-up, speaking of Droney, we actually see a Metabot, which we saw in an earlier replay come out to snipe something. Here we see it coming in to do its actual job, which is give it a little TLC. Just a little TLC. Oh, and by the way, that's a friggin' laser. And kabam! Kablamo, we get the hits all up in the Temptress. We get the Honey Bear taking down the Gravedigger, which it had to expend all of its actions in order to do so. And we actually see an aggressive Jar advancing. Why? Mostly to take this point. The Jar is not long for this world. It clearly needed to move off of the lava. So taking this point is valuable. And this is something that I'm just going to pause for a moment to talk about this. This is something that I definitely fall into this trap where it's, I need to preserve this phobia. I got to keep it alive. I got to do this. I got to do that. The goal is just to win the game. It doesn't matter how you win the game. Whether you kill all their phobies or you pop their heart, whether it's through panic points, it's just bum rushing their heart, whatever it happens to be. The point is that the phobies are a tool. Once they have outlived their purpose, and basically we're accepting that Jar has outlived its purpose here, it's okay to allow them to die to get a greater advantage in a different part of the game. In this case, it is claiming this panic point. Now, there may have been a different way to do this. We'd have to go back and look more closely at that turn. But this is the reason I'm calling attention to this, is I've seen people, as I'm observing games, go out of their way to try and preserve certain things beyond the value of that particular phobia. Now, I'm not saying just throw your stuff into the meat grinder, but sometimes you're going to take losses, and you have to accept that as you're playing the game. So in the meantime, we see a very aggressive advance. This is where the Luffy things come in, I guess. We see an aggressive advance from the Alligator and the Cassowary going for Orange's heart. So Orange is under panic point pressure, as well as having two phobies standing adjacent to their heart. Now, it's going to take a little repositioning in order to get both of them to connect fully. But there's a big hurt there. And then the erratic follow-up means that this Blast-O-Matic is in danger. Now, one question I have, if we go back, this Hydra has not moved. I'm not sure why the Hydra is staying here. It's still at over 3k health. Like, punch something, buddy. Come on, pal. You're sitting in the stands here eating popcorn. You gotta get in the game. Get your head in the game, get involved. I'm not sure why the Hydra was staying there. I know we have some of the players in chat, so maybe they can elaborate. But we now see more Honey Bear goo, aka mud, coming down. And we actually see the Blast-O-Matic standing its ground, even in the face of an impending erratic. But we do see the reposition from the Metabot in order to snipe the Cassowary, which is reasonable. My one brain cell ain't working there. All right, Gilbo. We have our blue player in chat defending the plays. Or, I guess, not defending them, as the case may be. We do see DT following up as both players are now out of keys. Both players are out of keys, and we see... Oh, this is kind of cool. He looks like he's dancing. The alligator's having a good time. I know what part of the animation this is, but it just looks like he's dancing. So it amused me. But anyway, we see a follow-up Miss Moffat, which is actually relatively important here because it's going to be able to yoink the alligator out of position in order to make something happen. Or, in this case, because this is not going to go down unless the alligator comes back, it's going to be able to yoink the erratic and then blow up the erratic. I suspect it's going to have to focus on the gator because right now we're talking 2200 health on the heart. And again, still a blue panic point advantage. So we see the Metabot slide on down and reclaim a panic point. Now, the panic points are not going to stay orange for very long because that erratic is presumably going to advance. But we do get the yoink here, and we get a very, very high poison from Miss Moffat onto the alligator. This basically is not just going to negate the healing, but it's also going to actually push damage on it due to how high the poison is. This is 489 damage with the poison. We get the reposition from the Cyclops, which means that the Hydra won't be able to get it, but again, Hydra advances, erratic advances, and all of a sudden that's a lot of blue panic points. So not out of the woods yet. But we do get the hit from Blast-O-Matic onto the alligator, even though it's still within range of the erratic. This erratic is going to put a hurt on this thing. Although, I misspoke earlier. It's not actually going to claim a panic point here. That was already blue. So we're only getting the one panic point. The alligator does go back to try and put some more pressure onto the heart, and we are now standing at 1,300 health. This is getting scary. But, obviously, Spider and Cyclops mean that bye-bye, Gator. Apparently, spiders will eat gators. It's not just on prehistoric Earth. It's not just on the Discovery Channel. When you were talking about dinosaurs and things when spiders were, like, the size of cows, it apparently happens in Phobies as well. And at this stage, it's actually kind of a rough spot for Gilbo because the Hydra is never really going to connect. And it looks like the erratic just can't quite do enough damage. Now, we do see the Hydra positioning in order to threaten this Metabot, but it has 3 movement. Like, come on. It's not getting there. We do see a reposition from the Blast-O-Matic, which is also super important. And we get a little more TLC on the Blast-O-Matic, so it is now, what? 1,500 health? Pretty good spot. And then the obvious, just the walk away from Honey Bear and the rest of the team. Now, the erratic can come south, tag the spider, it'll splash. We'll see if that's what actually happens. But the Hydra is going to get a little chomp action on the Cyclops. Shout out to everybody with them chomps. But the erratic chooses to go north in order to claim more panic points, which I think makes sense given how close this heart is to demolition. It's down to 1,000 health. But at only 2,200 a turn, I don't know that it's enough. And of course, the pull from Moffat means that we're probably not killing this thing, but it's definitely doing a lot. Oh, actually, we do get it because I forgot, but Blast-O-Matic has electric damage. 236 in this case. And that adds up. Because I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, why is it doing 700 at a clip? Well, there's your answer, folks. Metabot reclaims the point. And oh, buddy, the game is on your shoulders, erratic. I hope you've been working out shoulders and back, because that's going to be a lot of weight. That's going to be a lot of weight. This is a game where Moffat and Metabot both prove their worth and then some. Yes, there was a lot of value to be gained both by the spider pull and by the Metabot, which I'm curious, since you're in chat, DT, did you think you were going to get that much value out of them when you were playing when you first dropped them on the board? Or was it just I want these for the immediate effect, and we'll see how it goes. Sometimes I forget one of my own units sometimes. I do the same thing, Forgo, and that's why, like, I know Gilbo is in here, so we're teasing him a little bit, but everybody makes mistakes. But I think that, honestly, if that Hydra was repositioned during various points during that game, it may have caused either a positioning error from DT or just allowed it to do something. Since it sat there and, you know, was a spectator, didn't do a whole hell of a lot. But yeah, you needed them right away. That's fair, DT. But yeah, this was a cool game, so shout out to DT and Gilbo. They are competitors in Fright Night as well. We're going to be seeing the end of Fright Night, so if you're interested in joining Fright Night, you can check the YouTube description for the Randoms Thoughts Discord, or come by the live stream and hang out RTChompGG over on Twitch. But this was a pretty cool replay. Let's see what Hydra does. I mean, I don't mind Hydra. I don't think it's good on that map. It's just so many hit points. There has to be a value for it, right? Like, it's too many stats to ignore, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe it is just terrible, but... All right, so Anda's was... they actually... So this is kind of funny. Anda... I don't know if Anda's in chat, but Anda titled their game The Art Museum by Gravedigger and Mount Crushmore. So we're going to see, I guess, a... shout out to my Constructicons fans, or if you like Grapple. If you're a Transformers fan and you liked those episodes, you may like this particular breakdown from Phobies. So we'll try this one. I'm just going to skim for the Phobies we're looking for, and if they show up, then we'll start over. If I don't see a Crushmore, then we know that it's not. Alright, so we're going to assume that this one is it. I don't know if this is actually the game. I hope it is. Which, as mentioned a moment ago, this game was titled by the person who submitted it, which is Anda, our hero over here in the blue trunks. And it's titled The Art Museum by Gravedigger and Mount Crushmore. So we'll see how true that is. We see a somewhat abnormal opening. And why is it abnormal? Because we started Creep. What I've seen a lot on this map is opening Gravedigger. And I was kind of expecting that since, you know, the game was titled with Gravedigger. But we see Creep come down, answered by a Creep and a Mopsy. I don't mind the Mopsy. And the orange player can just claim both of these points and take an early advantage here. But we'll see how this goes. Now, the Bo Mangles play, I'm not a fan of one-move Phobies on this map unless you already have Gravedigger set up so that you can pop these and then get more room to position. The Gesundheit is okay, but in general, I'm not a fan, again, of the one-move Phobies, and Gesundheit is exceptionally fragile as compared to Bo Mangles, where it could move in or even stand on the lava and tank. Yes, Gesundheit can fly over the obstacles, but what ends up happening more times than not, from my experience, is that it'll end up sitting on one of these because it pops over and shoots something and then just gets blown up. And it doesn't really get its value. I have seen games where Gesundheit has put in a lot of value here on Lights Out, but I don't know if this is what you want here. Both players are banking in odd intervals. So our orange player has 4. Obviously, the Creep on turn 1 allowed Anda to have 4, and it looks like they're going to have 4 at the end of this turn as well. So the Gravedigger does come out and do exactly what I was mentioning. It allows an opening for the Bo Mangles to position and not have to necessarily threaten itself by standing on lava, or advance so far that it's overextended immediately. It doesn't quite eliminate the Mopsy. It only is able to cripple it. So you're not able to just stand on it. And we see a retreat from the Gesundheit all the way down here, which is odd. I'm assuming this was to dodge the Creep. So the Creep started here, behind the lava. If the Gesundheit moved to either this block or down here, if it was to the west, one space, it could have got spat on by Creep. Or possibly tagged by Gravedigger, depending on whether Anda wanted to go for it. So I understand, but this is kind of what I was talking about, where these one-move Phobies, this thing's out of the game for a while now. Unless something's in this very center spot. I mean, I guess if it's up here too, or where the Mopsy is, it just feels like this thing is going to be irrelevant for a very long time. So we see both players had banked to 7 keys. The answer from orange player is Sparky. I mentioned on many occasions, I do not like Sparky. I feel like Sparky is overcosted for what it does, but it is gonna beat up Bowmangles. Like, that's gonna happen. And we actually see Pescetti, which I know somebody in chat had mentioned they just pulled from their seasonal packs, or seasonal pack. We get a disease. I'm not real sure if this is what you want, but it does present a lot of damage aside from the disease. So if it actually connects, 600 damage is not something to ignore. So if this Sparky, which actually has 2400 health, it's a level 8, comes in, there are ways to eliminate it. There are ways to eliminate it, because you should not, as the orange player, be able to one-shot the Bowmangles. Now, one thing I'm a little surprised by here is that the creep came in and bit the Bowmangles. It did not spit on Pescetti. That is really strange to me, but it is a play you can make, I guess, because this Pescetti is a dimensional phobie. Now, the positioning here is pretty good by our orange player. It prevents the exposure of Sparky to just about anything. It is possible to get line of sight here. You know, you could remove the Mopsy, move with creep, do this stuff. But because of the Gesundheit back here, and because of the jar and the rest of the phobies as they are positioned, it's going to be very difficult for ANDA to actually push damage onto Sparky, which ultimately is going to lead to a dead Bowmangles. So as we see, it doesn't look like ANDA's very interested in actually dealing with Sparky at this stage. It's instead clearing out the Mopsy, clearing out the creep, and then getting the disease onto Sparky to start setting things up. Now, since the Bowmangles is such low health, it is toast no matter what. The jar could have come in and poked it, but we're actually going to see the Gesundheit clear out the body block so that Sparky can actually hit the Bowmangles, which is what you'd expect. Now, what's a little surprising here is that we get a Muffin to heal this Gesundheit. So we've spent 1 key to save a 2 key, which is fine, I guess, because the assumption here, I guess, is that ANDA will continue to advance to pressure the Sparky. But given that ANDA has... Whoa, okay, ANDA is all in there. All up in there. We get some Pescetti action, and that is also a dead jar. This will be a dead Pescetti, which is 6 keys that are getting incinerated. But jar is off the board. Eventually, this will go down, and it's going to get very complicated very soon for the Sparky to even really engage. Now, here's where we see the Construction Brothers, I guess, in Crushmore and Gravedigger coming out. We'll see how many walls they build, or how many walls they tear down. But the Pescetti does eat it. The Sparky absorbs the Pescetti damage in order to make sure that, you know, you don't just lose the Gesundheit, although I don't think it would have died. And we see a Clinico to follow up in order to heal it. It doesn't remove the disease, so I don't know if this was a mistake from Orange Player thinking the disease would go away, or if they just wanted to preserve their investment. There's an argument here that you're just throwing good keys after bad, because, yes, this probably would have died, or would have certainly been very vulnerable. But is it worth investing another 3 keys in this? Like, is this how you're going to win the game? I don't think that there's any 5 key that comes out. So if you went, like, a different 3 key and a 5 key, is that going to fight off Gravedigger, Crushmore, and something else when you have to dive? Because remember that Orange right now is at a disadvantage because of the panic point situation. That disadvantage means that they have to advance. All of the advantages are on ANDA's side. They have defend, or maybe not all the advantage, but the defender's advantage is on ANDA's side. So the disease, the longer that Orange Player waits, it's going to tick away, eat up the Sparky, And they have to commit now or never, basically. So we'll see what they end up doing. Here, we see one of the blocks go down. And then we see the self-throw into Sparky. Now, this puts the Crushmore in range of Sparky. And hypothetically, the Gesundheit could have hit it. But we actually see our orange player retreating and repositioning. I'm not sure that this is worth it, and I definitely don't think, from having played Wooly Bully a lot, Wooly Bully feels like you need to be playing from an advantageous position. It is useful as the frontliner to dive something, but you need to force your opponent into a very particular position so that the rest of your team can get there. These one-move Phobies, like Gesundheit, are not going to be able to get into position all that quickly. You don't have a lot of time because of the disease on Sparky. And obviously, Clinico is not presenting much of a threat. So ANDA is able to reinforce with both an Eternal Night, and I'm not real sure about this. Boom is okay, but I don't know that that's particularly what you need or want here. But the center statue does make some of this kind of awkward because you can't get the Wooly Bully to really connect where you want it to. In this case, they are going to be able to simply because you utilize the Gesundheit. This means that the Crushmore is now only doing a meager 148 damage, but 2 hits from that will kill the Gesundheit, unless we see a Clinico, which we actually don't. The Clinico repositions because it's still on cooldown. It must have healed this, and I missed it. But we do have the Boom connecting, which is a rarity. You don't often see one of the landmines actually connect. But this Wooly Bully was forced to stand on the lava, and now we have this wall coming down. Oh man, is ANDA going to do it to him? Is this Crushmore going to put down a wall? No, the Crushmore can't, so the Crushmore can't put down the wall because it killed the Gesundheit. Honestly, I wonder if it would have been better to put down the wall. You would have left the Gesundheit alive, which means that it would have capped this point. And it also would have possibly lit up your Crushmore. So what you probably could have done was put down the wall, back off to where this Gravedigger is now, and then you're in range to hit the Gesundheit. And then you blocked off their entire team, and they have to try and fight through the obstacles. But I'm just thinking of cute plays. I'm not the one playing the game, so it's easy for me to say, yeah, do the troll play. Troll the hell out of your opponent. But in the meantime, we do have a Crushmore that is still powered down, so it's going to get a hit and then get out. The Muffin's going to pop in order to heal it, quite obviously. Now the question is, where else is ANDA going to position? Because while these statues are set up and it's cute, and again, the Sparky was forced to stand on the lava. This is kind of bold. I feel as though, again, our opponent, the orange player, needs to be more aggressive, I think. You could heal this thing again. But the problem is that you're just... I feel like you're not doing enough as the diseased player. I can understand, oh no, here it is, they did it to him. This is also part of the reason you need to be aggressive, because look at this. Would you look at this? How exactly is orange player supposed to come back from this position? They have 3,000 health, nearly. But look at this. They obviously got to heal the now under 400 health Sparky. But what are they going to do? Sit here whacking the statues for 10 years? Like, this is going to take forever. And by the time they kill it, the Gravedigger can come back down here and probably plop another one. They may never be able to crack this. This is actually ridiculous. This is actually ridiculous. So I may have been exaggerating with them never be able to crack the wall, but this is actually really cute. ANDA's doing the right thing. Just build another wall. They'll break this one, and then look, it's now 2 layers deep. Eventually, I will get there. And even if they do get there, they have to expose themselves to the Crushmore here. You can't heal everything with this Clinico, especially since this is diseased. because that's going to continually chew up the Clinico charges. So now we soften up and eliminate the Woolly Bully, and all of a sudden our opponent is screwed. They can't do anything. This is actually a really cool play, and recognizing what tools you have available to you, whether it's just in your vault or even on the board. Recognizing how the board state shapes up like this is important. And locking your opponent out in this fashion may not, like, how often will that come up? How many games can you out there in YouTube land or you in Twitch chat tell me that you actually locked your opponent out of the game in this fashion with Gravedigger and Crushmore, or even just one of them? It doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, it's gotta feel sweet. It's gotta feel sweet. So GG. This was a cool game to look at, Anda. What the heck just happened? I just joined. It was a fun game to look at. I can 0. Yeah. I've blocked people into on Eternal Monday. I blocked off somebody's spawn. I've done that once, but they had flyers. And on Biff's room, I blocked off people when I first started playing by blocking off one of the, like, the one choke point. That's a highlight right there. That is a cool game. So shout out to Anda. Like, that was absolutely a highlight game. That was a highlight game. Which, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know what you think the coolest plays in these replays are. Let me know in the comments what you think the coolest plays are out of either this video or the other videos. Which ones you think beat it out, because these are pretty cool. There are some really cool plays that are showing up. Yeah, I did, Elkin. I ended up getting Crushmore. We had a lot of people getting some pretty cool stuff tonight. I had the silver one, so I only got an uncommon, but Crushmore is really good. It's brony time. It is brony time. Alright, Gilbo, who are we playing against? This is against Sentry. So here it is. Alright, chat. We've been waiting for another brony game since we had a brony game that was pointed out by chat among some of the top 10 players on the arena ladder. But now, Gilbo has submitted a brony game because Gilbo recently unlocked that particular phobia. If you don't know what brony is, oh boy, you're in for something. So we are on This May Sting a Bit, and the hero of our story, Gilbo, in the orange trunks, starting in the top right corner, whereas the bad guy down here in the blue trunks is Sentry. Sentry starting off with the fairly standard This May Sting a Bit opener of 1 key plus flyer. In this case, Murder Wing plus cat. This is standard because it allows you to take this top panic point as well as threaten these 2 bottom ones. And Gilbo here is responding in a similar fashion with Maggie, Murder Wing, and a 1-cost Razor Mouth of their own. I kind of like this response, but it depends on what your collection allows you to do or what you want to try and build into. Whether you want to bank that key for a 6-cost. We saw a game earlier where Alistor showed up on turn 2. But this allows the orange player to threaten multiple points with this particular opening, given the additional board presence. And there's a lot of damage that's represented here between Maggie and a meatball. The answer from Sentry is Blinky, another flying phobia, which allows them to try and threaten these other points. But we do see an early panic point advantage going to our hero, Gilbo. The Cyclops opener seems to be, or Cyclops response seems to be something that Gilbo's leaning into. As of late, we've watched a number of games recently of Gilbo's where Cyclops has made an appearance, and this one is no different. I can understand it here. It is a fairly high level at level 7, so it's shown up with almost 2k health and 472 damage. It's a pretty solid amount. Now, the answer from our blue player is Hevo, which on this particular map, lobs don't have as much value. It's way more open compared to a lot of the maps that you see in most of the rotations. A lot of the time, lobs are, if not strictly superior to regular ranged phobies, it's pretty close. Here, that advantage is mostly muted. Mostly. Not completely, because there are some obstacles, and there are scenarios where it'll matter. But regardless, Hevo is still a threatening ranged phobie. So we actually see a very aggressive invade here from Gilbo. However, there isn't really a good way for our blue player to punish it, and this is something that I think people may not normally do. And I want to spend a moment calling attention to it because it's something that I'm trying to recognize in my own gameplay. And what is that? It's easy to look at that scenario and go, oh, well, I'll go in, I'll get one shot, but it's not going to do anything because they'll hit back and heal it, or they'll hit back with a meatball and other stuff, and then put more damage on my Cyclops. So why am I going in? However, if you keep doing that turn after turn after turn after turn, ultimately you end up in those stalematey situations where your opponent and you are both building up, or your opponent is the one that's, you know, taking a shot here, taking a shot there, and then setting up for 3 turns from now where you can successfully dive something that you otherwise would not have been able to dive. That's why this attack is relevant. Will it matter in this game? I don't know. We haven't seen this game yet. We'll find out. But it is something to call out because just getting a shot here and there, now all of a sudden this thing's at 1300 health. That's way more manageable than if you had just left it alone. It is significantly more difficult to cross certain damage thresholds. I need some water. I'm having some difficulty getting these words out. There are certain damage thresholds, and it's going to be based on your collection. You know how much damage you can roughly put out in a turn, given certain circumstances. Obviously, it changes per map, per phobie, yours or theirs, both, whatever. But you have a rough idea of, oh, well, I can get 1,500 damage. That's not bad. 1,800 damage? All right, that's a little. 2K damage? Okay, that 3K damage? Yeah, there's no way I'm doing that in a single turn. That sort of thing. Just rough ideas. That's why chipping away at your opponent's health is relevant just to set them up, especially on these maps that don't have healing spas. That's a lot of words about a single attack, so we're going to let it roll from here. So the Blinky decides not to engage and instead is going to recap points. Now, this stage, we have a 3-to-1 panic point advantage for our blue player, and the Hevo elects to not really get involved, but instead hold back on this point. So the Cyclops is apparently, it's Blinky hunting season. Shout out to all my Looney Tunes fans, but it's Blinky hunting season. And the Cyclops is just charging after this Blinky. We do see the cat come out in order to reclaim the center point. Makes sense. It's clearly not long for this world, but that's okay. Now, this Cyclops has enough health that it's unlikely that it's going to die on this turn. Well, not unlikely. It's just not going to die. The only question is whether the Murder Wing decides to commit in order to make something happen. Instead, the Murder Wing is going to pull back to assist the Jin Sting and remove this cat, which is an interesting move, especially since we see a stabby follow-up from the blue player. This is yet another map where one-move phobies are very challenging to leverage because it just takes... It's like the Titanic meme. It's been 84 years trying to get this thing actually into position. Gesundheit at least can cheat and go over the Abyss tiles, but Stabby has got to hoof it to get in here. And, notably, there was no low-key phobie follow-up in order to try and sneak this over here. In case you forgot about this cat, it's been sitting here for a while. This guy has not been involved. Now, presumably it's sitting up there in order to pin Maggie in place, which I can understand. But Maggie also has the option of maybe coming down here and just, you know, maybe taking a bite out of this Jin Sting. There's a lot of different things that could happen up here because of where Maggie is, but this cat is out of the action. If the cat repositioned, it could threaten this middle point. Now, our blue player maybe just be banking for Hevo. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Or some other 9-key. Maybe it's Smother Mother, maybe it's Chuck, I don't know. But right now, we still have 1,000 health Cyclops down here, as well as a Jin Sting that's in position to tag either the Hevo or the Blinky, presumably the Blinky. But I expect that while this Cyclops was hell-bent on killing Blinky, I don't think it's going to continue to do it. Apparently I was wrong. It is going in there. So the Cyclops will not be able to go down without help. So here's where Gilbo makes a cool play. We get the invade up here in order to take down the opposing murder wing. It is unlikely that a lot of these other things are going to die. The forces are now split for the blue player, so it's going to be difficult for them to reinforce without continuing to lose things. Now, this gets even more hilarious, and why the replay was submitted has revealed itself. There is now a Brony on the board. For those of you who are unaware of what Brony is or does, here's the Brony. Brony is a 7-key phobie. In this case, it is a 3-cost, and it has the ability Too Friendly. What does Too Friendly do? Friendly and enemy units within range and a line of sight lose the ability to deal damage. Poison and disease statuses are unaffected. We've seen some very successful... Brony's just like staring into your soul right here. This might have to become the cover for the thumbnail for the YouTube video. There's a little Brony for you. But Brony here is going to set up weird scenarios where you can disable your opponent's stuff and keep yours around, which may become very relevant because we do in fact see a Chuck coming out. So the invade here by Gilbo allowed a split of the enemy forces, and in fact may result in a takedown here. Can you actually kill this? No, you shouldn't have enough damage. But you do threaten a hell of a lot. So what ends up happening here? The Maggie got repositioned, and we can rewind this turn so that you can actually see what's going on. We'll pause it right beforehand. So the Brony goes in to get in position. And then as much damage as possible is pushed by the phobies that are available. So the Cyclops as well as the Blinky. Yeah, it has 3 range. So right now, remember, this has a 3 range, it's an AoE, and it'll hit things that are in line of sight or within, and it has to be within range. But here's the thing to keep in mind that we learned from other Brony games. Blocking your phobies with your other phobies would block targeting. Like a ranged unit that's not a lob cannot hit your defended, protected, guarded phobie that's behind another one of yours. Brony ignores that. Brony goes through that. Brony is like the honey badger. It don't care. So Brony does this little dance, which I didn't even know it did. Hold on, I gotta rewind this again. Because we gotta zoom in on this, because I didn't know that Brony did a dance. I was looking at the rainbow effect. No, zoom in. Stay zoomed in. Stay zoomed in. I want to see the... I hope it doesn't whip the camera when Ginseng goes to the bottom. If you hear a weird noise, it's because I'm scrolling the mouse. Brony does a little dance. We got some lollipops. We got some flying Bronies. Yeah, the Blinky animation is super cool. So anyway, it ends up disabling only one, because Brony doesn't have an actual attack. It disables the Cyclops. It disables the Hevo, which is now trapped on a stem, but trapped. It goes to 0. It doesn't care. Doesn't care. And it also shuts down the Ginseng. So now we're only looking at a single attack from Stabby, and then maybe an attack from Chuck if they choose not to advance it. So they could move it here, and they go 1, 2, 3, and hit Blinky. But that's not enough to even kill Blinky. It's only like 900 damage. Maybe 1,000. We'll round up and say 1,000. Anyway. Brony is actually pretty strong. It's definitely weird to get your head around, like, how to properly use it, but it seems pretty damn strong. So, the Ginseng, since it can no longer attack, does advance up here. And we see a Metabot in order to try and preserve this Hevo, which... Okay, sure. Here's the other thing to keep in mind about Brony, and we finally see the cat re-enter the fray. The Brony cooldown, or the way that the effect wears off, the Brony player's phobies will have the effect wear off first. It'll effectively last another turn, because it turns off damage for 2 turns on those Phobies, but it's 2 of turns that you could have done damage. So that's why it will fall off of Gilbo's Phobies first before Sentry's. So you have a huge advantage as the Brony player to just shut stuff down basically whenever you want. Really clever using obstacles to keep Maggie and Jinsting online? Yes. I would agree with that. Now, I'm not sure that I would have pulled Brony all the way back here. You probably could have put it like here, so up 1 move essentially, and been okay. But, you know, it is what it is. So at this stage, all of the Brony effects have worn off. The butterflies, the Phobies moves are cute. There's so many things that are cute about Phobies. It really is. Which is, when you think about it, weird. Because it's supposed to be this creepy, horrifying thing, but they're also cute. But we do see the classic Gilbo follow-up of Hebo 3.0. And we also see a 4-to-1 panic point advantage going for orange. Now, our blue player is down to a single key, Gilbo is out of keys, and we see Stabby reposition onto the panic point, as well as a Jinsting takedown of Blinky, and a reposition of Chuck. This doesn't look great for Gilbo at this stage, honestly. Especially with the Brony so far out. If the Brony was closer, honestly, I'd feel a lot better, because then it could dive and turn off like half their forces. And the blue player has to honor that particular play. That being said, Gilbo seems to be hell-bent on going face and doing his absolute best Luffy impression here. Shout out to Luffy. And it looks like that is the game plan, because we see the positioning here. So look at this setup. We have 2 Phobies, well, really only 1 Phobie that can hit twice, 1 that will hit at least once. And then the Hevo is going to come in. All of these are just going to ignore the Stabby. But if the blue player tries to actually dive, tries to collapse on this and rotate to it, which they may not be able to because 1 move Phobie, a Metabot, a Contortio, like, the Chuck is the brunt of this, as well as a Stabby, admittedly, which is on the stem, but is soon going to be turned off by the Brony. The rest of these things can't advance quickly enough to get past the Brony. Like, that's the bottom line. So the Brony still has a 2-turn cooldown, because it is 4 overall. Which explains why Gilbo had moved this down here to cap this point. I mean, capping the point is fine, but I wanted to get it up in the fray just to keep our opponent thinking about it sooner. As long as you keep it out of range of Chuck, that's the only thing that really matters. Just to elaborate on what I was trying to explain earlier. So it looks like blue player is kind of accepting what's going to happen down there. We do see the Jinsting go down, and they are reclaiming points and trying to threaten the same thing at the top. But Gilbo is just going for it. We got the Cyclops hits. We got the Hevo hits. Now, the Hevo hits are, unfortunately, going to cause issues with the Stabby, to a degree. But the Brony here is going to body block for the Stabby. And I think this has 2100 health. So it's not going to die. And it now has waited out its cooldown and is available to power down the Stabby. Oh my god, this is going to get the Chuck too. Is this going to get... I think this gets the Chuck. Oh no, the Brony dies. Okay, the Brony dies. It was actually enough damage. But we get the Hevo move into the north in order to block off the stim. And because Brony is dimensional, it actually pulls the Stabby off the point. Now, at this stage, Sentry doesn't really have anything in position to fight this stuff. Certainly not from the stim. And the AoE means that the Metabot goes down, so there's even less represented from the blue team to combat Gilbo's offensive. The Hevo comes down, abandoning its defensive posture because all it has to do is body block, and also threatens just being on the stim. So blue player elects to move Unbearable onto the stem. I don't know that it particularly matters, but sure. It's all over but the crying. And that's the ball game, folks. That was a pretty cool Brony game. That was actually really fun and showcases the power of Brony. Now, Brony does have, and I didn't really explain this very well in the game. In fact, when I was talking about the Brony positioning, it might be misleading people, so that's why I wanted to show it again. It does have a 4-turn cooldown, so taking that bottom right panic point makes sense. I think just keeping it and drawing attention with it by having it towards the center might have been more valuable. But then again, leaving it way out of range of the Chuck is worth it as well. So, shout out to Gilbo for submitting that one. I think showcasing some of these more unique phobies is really cool. If you hit up the Random Thoughts Discord, I hope that you do. If you're on YouTube and you're seeing this, check in the description. ! Discord if you're on the live stream. But make sure you read the rules. It's big, it's bold, and it's literally red now. It's literally red now. You have to react to the bot. You have to read the rules and say, yes, I acknowledge the rules, I understand the rules. Or it won't allow you to see the channels. Because I constantly see a lot of people join and then never do it. And then they message me and go, well, I can't get in the Discord. It's like, well, you didn't react to the bot. So I don't know what to tell you. So we do have one thing I wanted to call out because I was curious about this. We are still at Sum of All Fears. I thought you'd drop out of Sum of All Fears if you were in it at the end of the season. That's obviously not the case. So we'll be jumping into that later. So they have a game versus Alien Engineer. All right, so Alien Engineer is pretty high up on the ladder. Let's see where they are before we jump into this game to give some context. Ooh, it looks like the ladder changed. Alien Engineer dropped down to number 9 on the ladder, but that, I think, is because of the reset. As you can see, everybody's at 3,000. So Alien Engineer was like number 2 on the ladder before, so we'll see how this one goes. If you have to ask, would this get me kicked? The answer is probably yes. More people in more aspects of their day-to-day life, not just the internet, but all parts of life, should take a moment before they say or do something and go, is this really a good idea? Would this get me kicked in the dick? Like, depending on the answer, you may understand whether you should take certain actions or not. Just saying. But anyway, we're going to jump into this game. So this is, once again, another viewer-submitted game. This is our hero in blue versus the bad guy, Alien Engineer. Alien Engineer? I don't actually know how to say their name. Ali Engineer? I don't know. Whatever. Our orange player. So we have Gravedigger openings, which are becoming the de facto kind of opener for Lights Out, which I'm very happy that this map will hopefully rotate out soon. But our blue player has the initiative here and elects to, do as one does with Gravedigger, pop the top block, and then follow up with a trap phobie, which is actually pretty cool. Because Unicorn is ranged, it does threaten this spot, so it does drive away either phobie from capping this point. You could make an argument as the orange player to try and cap this as or with the cat and then send the Gravedigger down here. I think that would be reasonable, but you'd obviously lose the cat and then thereby lose some board presence. In this case, however, we see a stabby answer, stabby follow-up. Now, this is a interesting trap position simply because what are the odds that your opponent is going to commit this far? I don't think, they could hit it with a jar. They could move up with the stabby, shoot the unicorn, and then hit it with a jar. That will not kill it, just weaken it. So you could have stepped forward, is the point, and then put a trap here. Given that the follow-up is Bo Mangles, it would make life complex in order to try and just get both of those out of there, as we mentioned on a previous review on this map. And it's very challenging to make one move Phobies work, even when you break these top blocks. It certainly helps. It's way harder if they're still there, but it is very difficult. So we do end up seeing a trap here, which I'm very curious to see if it comes into play. But we see some repositioning from Alien Engineer going to allow the cat to go down this time, and a bank to 6 keys. Now, we had a bank to 4 on our blue player's side, but I'm not sure if this is where this is going to lead to. Like, what are the players banking for? We have also the follow-up here, I guess, in order to pressure the stabby more. This is interesting because, like, these two can't get out of each other's way, is the problem. Now, we could see the Gravedigger retreat and break this block, which I think is what we're about to see. Yep. So, Bo Mangles moves down, the Unicorn probably moves up and traps the center point, but now we see a Moffat follow-up, which is pretty cool, to try and combat the Erratic. Again, single move Phobie. Our orange player was breaking the blocks as well in order to reposition their stabby. All kind of expected things given the Phobies that we've seen at this stage. However, the Moffat affords an additional advantage to our blue player because they can kind of invade. They can invade and make something happen. Now, the cat is clearly just to snipe this point. But we're now having... This is still strange to me. So, our orange player banked to 6. Our blue player banked to 7. We imagine the cat is going to go down. You don't want to have things close to the cat because of the splash from Erratic here. But I think it would still be worth advancing the Unicorn to put this trap on the center point, on the neutral point. Why is it going down here? It's just not likely for anything to land on it. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we're going to get... I'm going to get proven wrong here. But we do ultimately see the removal of the cat, and then a cowbell follow-up to try and do the same thing as we saw with the cat, to try and clear stuff out. Or reclaim points, rather. So we do see the great repositioning as well. We get Gravedigger down here. We have a better position Bo Mangles that it's farther away from the Erratic, but allows it to still collapse. So we're clearly seeing the setup here for the Miss Moffat to eventually yoink an important Phobie. I'm assuming our hero here is intending to try and pull the Erratic. We'll see if it actually happens. It'd be funny to see a map full of traps. That's happened, Forgo. We reviewed games like that. Luffy did that with a Venus on this map, and basically all 5 of these center tiles had traps. It didn't work out as well as you might think. But we see more 1-key trading back and forth. We're 9 keys to 10 keys as far as remaining ones. So at some point, we're going to see one of the players say, look, I have to do something. The question is going to be when. And this Newly Dead may prompt that sort of response. While the Newly Dead will take some time to actually get into position, it's 2 turns away from actually stepping on that point, it does necessitate additional key investments in order to actually remove it. In the meantime, we're going to see Bachelor come down, which this is, since I've been crapping on Bachelor as of late, this is a good scenario for Bachelor. I gotta get some water for a moment. Throat's getting dry. Been doing a lot of talking tonight as we review these games and do the pack opening. So, why is Bachelor good in this scenario? I don't like Bachelor early in the game because it often meaninglessly pulls something with its death. Whatever it pulls, almost doesn't care. Bachelor really got you choked up, it's true. It means a lot to me that it's actually going to do something this time. The difference here is that it could pull something relevant out of position and then get yoinked by the spider. What I anticipate is going to happen is that the Erratic hits it once and then a jar comes out. Because we already have a 1 key that Alien Engineer can use to recap the point, although, again, it's a couple turns from that happening. But we also don't want the erratic to get pulled, and Jar or some other 3-range Phobie is what's going to have to do it. The alternative is to, like, move up the Stabby, but that blocks out our... Well, you could move the Newly Dead in front of the erratic and then move up the Stabby, or double hit with erratic after you move the Newly Dead up, but it makes your opponent think about stuff. Point is that I like the later game Bachelor in order to try and make something happen as compared to the early game where it seems to be meaningless most of the time. So it looks like we are going to see the body block from the Newly Dead to prevent erratic from being in a bad position. So we should have traps available to us at this stage. I don't know if they were off cooldown last turn and they were forgotten, but I assume it was not intentionally forgotten. Now this positioning from the okay, I was going to say, if the erratic stays there, that's really bad. It's going to get pulled. It may not die because it's a... Oh, it's a level 9 erratic, but it only has 1900 health on it at the moment. So it would have taken a beating if it got yoinked by the spider. But in the meantime, we're going to see the Newly Dead cleared out. The Stabby replace the erratic in order to still cover the middle point. And the spider just walks on the Newly Dead and back, which is the play that you kind of see at this stage. It doesn't necessitate another key investment, although I was saying earlier that you likely would have to. You don't always have to. So we see more traps going down, and then the Contortio from last turn, we're once again just trading keys. The Muffin, I anticipate, is going to sacrifice itself by standing on the point as compared to hanging around to try and heal something. So this erratic will not die from the yoink, or should not. But our orange player is playing it safe. They're not taking any chances here and allowing the erratic to be in range of the spider. Why they keep juggling it and rearranging it, I don't know. Because it's out of... If it's out of range of the spider, just leave it out of range of the spider unless you want it to be in range. But I guess the idea is just make our blue player think about it. So the spider is now circled all the way to the bottom, and we have our minefield set up here with these traps from Unicorn. And we continue our march with just slowly ticking down on our keys, but it appears that Alien Engineer has, well, maybe not run out. Okay, there we go. They both are taking their time and refusing to reposition some of these one-move phobies. And we finally see a trap go down on here. Now, this is an AWOL, meaning that it only has 400 health, and these traps do 590. So at this point, Alien Engineer has to assume that there's a trap on there, I think. Ooh, we see a Brony! Speaking of Brony, so Brony is not going to help with these traps, though. The Brony's not going to help with these traps. But the Brony can absolutely tag a whole lot of things. So we see the big retreat here. We also see a sheep follow-up, which I'm never excited to see. I'm never excited to do it, and I'm never excited to see it. So the sheep comes down, and we actually see a wall get replaced on Alien Engineer's side of the board, which I can appreciate because that will line of sight block certain phobies from getting hit by Brony. Assuming Brony's able to connect. But now, because the Brony hit the board, that means that Alien Engineer is out of keys. And the other interesting thing here that is going to happen, we see, well, we'll let this play out, but the Brony is going to be able to hit this sheep. But the sheep would still be able to connect with the Brony as far as the poison goes. So the trap goes off, it lands on our Stabby, or on the Stabby. Now the Stabby gets yoinked, and is actually going to die to the trap, meaning no dimensional damage. Now, I'm a little surprised that the Brony even came out. I kind of get it for trying to break the symmetry here, break the parity, the stalemate. And it shuts off 4 phobies at this point. But again, the sheep is still going to be able to poison things. And the Brony ends up getting tagged by the trap. So it's basically Gravedigger, AWOL, and Erratic versus our blue player's entire team. So we see another trap go down. We see the sheep come in. And although it doesn't do damage, as you've noticed, like I said, the poison is there, and this is a dimensional phobie, so the brony's not long for the world. I think our orange player assumed that it was going to die. The Gravedigger is not going to be able to take it down alone, though. Does brony affect your own phobies? Yes, it will, if they are line of sight. But because of the statue here and the distance, Alien Engineer was able to prevent the brony from tagging them. So we do have to have the erratic advance and stand on a lava tile, which you never want to do if you don't have to, but you got to do what you got to do. The sheep goes down, but again, we're now looking at basically erratic and AWOL versus all four of those phobies. Erratic is good, but it's not that good. So the AWOL is able to cap a point here, which means that we have triple orange as far as panic points go. But there is maybe not a huge life lead, but I think there's a life lead. It's 2,400 to 2,800. Okay, so there is not a life lead for our blue player, but they still have 2 keys remaining and eliminated everything but the erratic at this stage. And the erratic is about to get yoinked by the spider. So this is not looking good. Obviously, just take the damage where you can get it. There's really no purpose in repositioning here, because the spider's going to come in, and you would rather, you know, it land where it does, rather than, like, moving somewhere else and end up on a lava tile. But we get some Gravedigger hits. We're going to get double Unicorn. We're going to get double Bowmangles. This should be a very dead erratic. That's a very dead erratic. That was a pretty cool replay that got submitted. And again, I apologize. I'm not even going to try this name. But shout out to our blue player for submitting this replay. We got to see a brony game where brony led to a victory, and we also got to see a brony game where brony didn't quite take it. So that was pretty cool tonight. If you are interested in playing in Fright Night, hit up the Random Slots Discord, either !Discord on the live stream, which you can find at RTChompGG over on Twitch, or check the YouTube description and hang out. There's a Fright Night role that you can opt into so that you can get all the notifications for when the events are starting. We may end up changing up the format just a little bit, but we'll play it by ear. I want to talk to the players, what their thoughts were after this particular event. But it definitely was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to running more. If you're interested in other events, you can hit up Jelly Belly's Discord. You can find links for it in the official Phobies Discord. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and Black Lives Matter.